Hello there and welcome to our presentation. As promised, this is the follow-up version on how to make your KORG Pa5X or any other arranger workstation communicate with the KETRON EVM, which is an event in the box. And for this demonstration, we have changed the setup a little bit for two reasons. One, we wanted to show you that the EVM can be used with a wireless iPad or a tablet, and can also be used in conjunction with this screen. But two, we have a bigger screen here, and it gives us a better chance of showing you in more detail how this actually works once we change the view to this view, which is going to be a lot better than using the smaller iPad. So what exactly are we doing? Well, think about it like a river. Okay, what you have to do is you have to have the KORG communicating with the EVM, or in this case the EVM over here, right? And that is done with a MIDI cable. So on the back of the KORG you have a MIDI cable, and you go from MIDI out on the KORG into MIDI in on the EVM. That is step one. Okay, once you have done that, you now have to program the KORG to send out the MIDI information to the EVM. So let's start off with the KORG setting. Let's go over to the KORG screen so you can see what the screen looks like. Okay, so actually I will do this. How about that? This is a lot better. Okay, so on the KORG, to access this screen over here, you are going to go into settings. Okay, and once you go into settings, you're going to have this screen over here. All right, now you notice that when I pressed setting the first time, it took you somewhere else. That's because on the KORG, whenever you get out of a function and you go back into it, it takes you to where you were at previously. So you have to hit it a couple of times and you get into this setting over here. Then you want to go into your MIDI, okay? So over here on the right, you have general controls, MIDI in. You want to go to MIDI out channel, because MIDI out channel, which is what you're going to see over, let's see. Oops, over there above the screen right there. Okay, MIDI out. So that will take you now to this screen. So what you want to do is you want to program out of MIDI channel 1, the upper one, which is going to be your upper one voice. You want to set that out of channel 1. And out of MIDI channel 2, you want to set that to lower. That's very simple. You just simply touch on that, and then you can turn the wheel to select whatever you want to select, right? So in this case, I want to go in and make channel 2 be my lower, which means that this button over here now comes into consideration. This is what is triggering the arranger part of the EVM. So if I turn the lower off, there's nothing going out to the EVM to control the left. And this is very important for the demo I just did, because I can determine when I want to engage the EVM and when I don't want to engage the EVM by just touching the button. Okay, so this is very nice for live performances, rather than having to come in here and turn it on and off. That's going to be impossible during a live performance. So what I choose to do is I want to associate my lower button with my chord transmission here back and forth to the EVM. And that's it for this particular one. Now I come into general controls, okay, and as you can see, the clock source, I want the clock here to be internal, and I want to check the clock send. Why? Because I want the MIDI clock to drive the tempo of the EVM. All right. So while this is happening on the KORG side, and of course I'm going to save it as, MIDI preset. You can save MIDI presets on your device. In this case, I chose to save it as KETRON because I may save different setups for different machines. One could be for Roland, one could be for Yamaha. But this particular setup is set for KETRON, which is going to control the EVM. Okay, so that's what's happening on this side. Now I'm going to switch over screen so you can see. I'm going to keep that screen on, and I'm going to go over to the KETRON so we can see what's happening on the KETRON side. Okay, so on the KETRON side now, just so we are on the same page, so you can see how I access that. Let's come here for a second. On the KETRON side, I want to go into menu. Okay, and then you have this screen over here. And once I'm in here, I want to go into the MIDI screen, which is this one over there. And that brings me now to this screen. Now you have these 9 presets, okay? So I can program each of these for different things. I can program this, for an example, to work with my KORG. I can program that to work with my accordion. I can program that to work with my Yamaha. These are your 9 presets. So for the sake of this example, I'm going to go into the standard one over there, okay? and I want to go into edit. Now once I do that, it brings me into this screen over here. Remember, on the KORG, we were talking about transmit MIDI going out, which is what we saw here, MIDI out, right? So actually on the Ketron, it's going to be the reverse, MIDI coming in. Now when you get into this menu, the default selection is the transmission channel, which is TX. That comes on yellow by default. You want to go into RX, which is the MIDI receive. This is what is receiving the signal from the KORG. And as you can see here, what I have done is I have the right, which is like corresponding to my KORG upper, okay? My right is set to receive on channel 1, and my left, which is my arranger part, is set to receive on channel 2. So whatever I'm playing here on my lower, which is now transmitting to channel 2, is going to be received on my left channel here for my arranger part. That's the first thing. Now, the Japanese brand, for some reason, are a little bit different. And here, when I go to my shift, they are an octave lower than the Ketron. So I want to be able to make sure that whatever note I'm playing on the Ketron, on the KORG, will match the same note on the Ketron. And for that, I'm going to set my right 12, which is I'm going to bring this up by 12 semitones. Otherwise, you're going to notice that when you're playing a note on the KORG, it's going to be an octave an octave higher than on the Ketron. So I bring the Ketron up to match up with the KORG. So I set that to 12, okay? And that's pretty much all you're doing in this particular one. Now, if I go into filter, this is when I can train my EVM to ignore certain things that the KORG is transmitting. So for example, program change. If I change a voice on here, I do not want the voice to change on the EVM. So I block it by turning it yellow. If I leave it white, then as I change voices on here, it's going to pick corresponding voices on there too. So I don't want that. If I change my volumes on here, I do not want those volumes to impact the EVM. So I put that to be yellow, which is off. I want to filter it. So whatever is yellow now is being filtered. Expression. If I'm on my expression pedal on the KORG and I'm changing things over here, do I want that to change on the EVM? If the answer is yes, you're going to leave that white. So you want it to come through. Otherwise, in my case, I want to filter it. I want to block it. So I'm going to block that. So the panning, yes, I do want my panning controls from the KORG to control the EVM. My pitch bend, if I do a pitch bend on the KORG or my ribbon, do I want to impact voices on the EVM? I leave all that open, okay, because I want those things to impact. Whatever is yellow, I want to block, so I don't want it to. As a matter of fact, here, I want my aftertouch to be white because I want the aftertouch capability of the KORG to transmit and to come into this. So once this is looking good and everything is fine, you want to now touch the save icon here, and you want to save it to that standard preset. Remember when we said we had 9 presets we're working with. So now if I go to MIDI, it has been saved in there, okay? Now on the utility side, again corresponding to this KORG section over here with the MIDI clock, now on the Ketron, I want to go into utility, and you can see right there that the MIDI clock has been set to out. So external, I want the MIDI clock that is coming from this device to be the one to drive the Ketron, such that if I change the tempo, it's going to match the tempo, it's going to change the tempo here automatically. Otherwise, I have to change the tempo here and change the tempo here to match it. But I want the same clock that is driving the KORG or your other arranger keyboard to drive the EVM. Okay, that's very important in here. And that's all you have to do. So now if I put these screens side by side, you're going to see your screen should look something like this. Okay, so the KORG is on the left, right? When I go into my settings over here and I go into MIDI, I do have this set up. Okay, if I go into the MIDI out channel, this is what my MIDI out should look like. If I go into the Ketron and I go into edit, this is what my receive channel on the Ketron should look like, okay? And when I go into the filter box, that's what it's going to look like over there as well, all right? Exit from here, and I get back into the utilities. That's what my Ketron looks like. This is what my KORG looks like, and when I go to my general controls, this is what the KORG also looks like, all right? So we figured that we will do a separate video because this is very, very important. Once you have this part configured, Everything else is easy peasy, because now it's just a matter of making the selections on the Ketron and selection on the KORG, right? So in that example that we just did, again, to show you, go into detail what I did here, I went over to the KORG and I pick a style that I want. But it's not every element in that style that I want to deal with. So that's why you see the flashing lights here. And these are what has been muted on the KORG. Now, these are flashing just because of the way the LEDs are working. These are not really flashing in real life, right? Just these ones are flashing. I think most of you understand that from previous videos as well. So don't think that these are flashing. No, these are not flashing in real life. The only lights that are flashing, which show that these are in mute status, are these ones over here for the bass, the drum, percussion, accompaniment 3, and accompaniment 4. So now that means that if I play this is the only part that's coming out of the KORG. And you all, of course, remember this from the other tune, you know, which is written over. Now, let me tell you why I did what I did before. So the song I was just performing not too long ago has intriguing parts, right? Where I'm using manual bass or I'm triggering different bass parts, and I don't want the accompaniment to be playing during then, especially at the introduction of that song. So what I did there was I did something to the nature of this. Now I release the hold and I release the memory over there. Okay, let's go back to the top of the screen so you can see what I'm doing together with the KORG. So the hold is off and the memory, those are the same functionality. It's called hold here, it's called memory over here. So now when I play a chord, I hear the arrangement. If I let go, I only hear the drums. Okay, so and there you have it. So you can imagine the power in your hands when you have the EVM, especially when you have the Pro Pack 4 package installed. That gives you all these great rhythms, live drums, bass, guitars, which you don't really have in the KORG PA, right? Now, in conjunction with that, remember, the whole idea of being able to use multiple arrangers is because they each have their own uniqueness that you're trying to bring together on the same table. So for an example here, I have keyboard sets that I have on the KORG, which is equivalent to what you have on the Voice to ABC here. But I have dedicated pads over here, which I can trigger, you know, and use those, for example, with my style, if I wanted to, if I choose to do that, right? So I can use that in conjunction with the style coming from the EVM. Again, the whole idea is to be able to enhance your existing So there you have it. You now have the capability to be able to use your KORG Pa5X with the EVM or any other arranger keyboard that you might have out there. This was a dedicated video for this one because the KORG is it's a very complicated arranger. It goes in very deep. But I wanted to show you exactly how you can tame it, right? So that it works for you for the most part. How does the connection work? How do you connect it to be able to get the best out of both machines? Now, the KORG does have some awesome right-hand lead voices as well. And you can use those voices in conjunction with the awesome rhythm backing section that is found on the EVM. I shall catch you all again in the next video. Again, this is AJ. If you haven't done so already, go to our website, www.KETRONAmerica.com or www.ajamsony.com, and download the Pro Pack 4. It's a very, very nice package. You got Pro Pack 1, Pro Pack 2, Pro Pack 3, and 4. These packages give you an enormous selection of content and information that you can use for your KETRON EVM series or event series. Event 61, EVM, and the oncoming or the forthcoming KETRON Fusion, as well with the other pianos EV1 and EV2, which are also extensions of the event series. Again, this is AJ. I shall catch you all in the next video. Take care.